Imam Malik radiallahu anhu said, لَيْسَ الْعِلْمْ كَثْرَةَ الرِّوَايَاتِ, that real knowledge is not knowing many hadiths and knowing all of the Quran and these things. وَإِنَّمَا هُوَ نُورٌ يَجْعَلُهُ فِي قَلْبِ الْمُؤْمِنِ. But the real knowledge is a light that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts in the hearts of the mu'mineen. And this is the difference between the munafiq. The Prophet ﷺ said, أَخَافُ وَأَخَافُ عَلَى أُمَّتِي مُنَافِقًا فَصِيحَ اللِّسَانِ. The most dreaded thing that I fear for my ummah is a hypocrite who has an eloquent tongue. وَمَا أَكْثَرَهُمْ فِي هَذِهِ الْأَيَّامِ. So many people like that. And the last one, and this falls into this category, the last type of alim is جاهل بالله وعالم بأحكام الله. The one who's ignorant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala but knows the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. كَمَثْلِ حِمَارٍ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. Like a donkey carrying books on his back. And he can benefit people, but he's hujjah ala nafsihi. He'll destroy himself. Like the Prophet ﷺ said on the Yawm al-Qiyamah, that people will come and they'll see somebody going into the hellfire. See some going into the hellfire. And they will say, how are you going into the hellfire? It was by you that we got najat. That we were saved by you teaching us. And he said, I used to command people to do things and I didn't do them. And this person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thrusts him into the hellfire. Because he's jahilun billah. He's ignorant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This ummah's task is to know Allah. أول واجب على من كلف ممكن من نذر أن يعرف الله والرسل بالصفات مما عليه نصب الآيات. The first injunction of this ummah for every mukallaf is to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to know His messenger in how they have been given to us by the book of Allah and the pure sunnah of the messenger of Allah. That this is the first taklif of this ummah. This is khitab al-Rabb. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command to this ummah, is to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to know them, their messenger.
Do we believe that every ayah of the Quran is a miracle? Do we believe that? Is it a miracle from the very time it was revealed or later on? From then. From its inception, the very first communication we had with the Quran, the first interaction human beings had with the Quran, every last ayah of the Quran is a miracle. This is what we believe. How many ayat of Quran are predictions? Very few. How many ayat of Quran are dedicated to scientific phenomena? Very few. How many of these things were even known to the Arabs of that time? Almost nothing. So what is it that mesmerized these people? What is it that every time the messenger opened his mouth, that they would be, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they would be dumbfounded. They didn't know what to say. Abu Jahl, Abu Sufyan, Akhnas ibn Shurayq, these three people would hate on the messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They were the elders of the Quraysh. They were the seniors. They were the think tank. And they would sneak in the middle of the night and put their ears on the Prophet's apartment sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They would listen to Quran being recited. And then they would sneak back before morning. And what happened the first night was they ran into each other. And the other didn't know the other was there. So the first guy is going, what are you doing here? He says, well, what are you doing here? So, right? They knew what they were doing there. So they swore they will never come back. They caught each other the next night. They swore they won't come back. They caught each other the third night. They catch each other the third night and they swear by their mothers, by their Lord, by their lives, they're never going to come back again, so they don't come back. But Akhnas, he's curious. He goes to Abu Sufyan and he says to him, we've been listening for 3 days. What do you think? Is this the truth? Abu Sufyan says to him, by the way, Abu Sufyan became Muslim much later. This is early seerah. Of course it's the truth. What else can it be? Okay, let's go talk to Abu Jahl. He's been listening too, right? So the two of them go and they talk to Abu Jahl. What do you think? Of course it's the truth. Abu Jahl says, of course it's the truth. But then he explained. You see, we're Banu Amir. And he's Banu Hashim. Right there, before I tell you any more of what he said, what did he take into consideration? The speech or the speaker? The rejection of the disbeliever came at the fact that these words, as powerful as they are, as true as they are, as flawless as the content is, as mesmerizing as the style is, we are not willing to accept this person. Because when Banu Hashim gives charity, we match them. When they fight, we match them. When they show bravery, we match them. When one of theirs comes up with these words, we will never match them. So they have won forever, we can't let that happen. That was the reason. SubhanAllah. It's a different take on history. Even those who hated the Quran were mesmerized by the Quran. The Quran is remarkable, stunning, mesmerizing literature. You have never read anything in your life that will come close to having the impact, not just from the religious point of view, but even from the psychological point of view. You will not be affected by anything that you will ever listen to or read like you will be by the Quran. The tragedy of our times is that we have reduced the Quran to translation and reduced the Quran to certain isolated quotations, by virtue of which we actually don't get to see the power in which it is communicating its message. And this is a big problem. By the way, the scholars of the Arabs don't have this problem, they see it. They see the beauty. And this is a problem mostly for the majority of the people of this ummah who are suffering from iman deficit to begin with. And if they saw this miracle and they saw that mesmerizing power of the Quran, at least heard about it on a regular basis, we would necessarily see a change in attitudes. A change in the regard, the awe, the inspiration we take from this Quran. It would be a different relationship. The dynamics of that relationship would change.